to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into Pater for a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. Cody Felger here. Derek, I have a green screen now larger, and Mr. Marcus Culture Shock himself. Fellas, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
I am awesome. Love the green screen, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you guys saw the last few minutes, I've been trying to work on the lighting and shit. I mean, it's kind of funny because I promise y'all, I'm going to work on getting the lighting better. If anyone was in my live stream when I did it, I know I looked like Casper. I know Marcus was telling me that a couple times, but I'm going to work on the lighting in here. I swear. This is the best I can get it right now. So
fair enough.
Take it one step at a time, boys. One step at a time.
Hey, it's better than the Dexter background. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah, I think everybody will agree on that one.
It's good to have something culture-related on the background.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Well, today we're going to kind of look at some guys who we think potentially are some sleepers. Now, I put out like a question, like who were some sleepers earlier on Twitter, and I literally got so many different answers. I was like, I can't just pick like 5. Like we're just going to give a bunch of guys because we feel like there's a lot of guys who are super slept on this Indianapolis team. So Marcus, since you are our guest, I will let you go first with your first choice here for your first guy who you think is a sleeper, a guy who's being slept on right now.
A guy I think is Taekwon Lewis. Number one, Taekwon Lewis. I think he's going to be stepping into a big role next season. Now, of course, we did lose Danico Autry, but I think he can be a good replacement. Of course, you got another guy like Justin Houston that's not back, but I think a guy like him in my second pick can be big next season on their roles, and I don't think they're getting talked about enough. But I do think Taekwon definitely is going to be a sleeper for sure.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think Taekwon is a guy that secretly had a really good season, a season that nobody's really talking about. He wasn't obviously DeForest Buckner level, but I agree. I think he was a very good rotational player last year, and now the door's wide open for both defensive end spots. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to potentially do. Derek, who was your first guy here that you think's being slept on?
I'm honestly, ironically, going to go the same thing here with Taekwon Lewis. I mean, okay. I saw from last offseason, we were talking about it, had the best training camp of anyone in all of camp and went from a potential roster cut to being a rotational piece on this defensive line. I look for him to try to continue to take that next step. You took that step, you showed that you're worth what we were hoping you would do. You were a rotational piece. Now, can you add on to that to be what we want you to be, which is another good role piece for, whether you're taking Grover Stewart's spot in the middle for passing downs, whether you are going to be in that defensive end spots while Dio is out for an extended period of time, be that versatile defensive lineman that we think you can be. I think he can. I look for him to try to build on that last training camp performance and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Taekwon Lewis is a solid pick here. For the sake of argument, because you guys both did him, I did not have him on this list, but I definitely could include him on this list. I'm just going to stay here on the defensive side. I was going to originally go with the offense and defense, but since you guys brought up the defender, Taekwon Lewis, I'm going to go with another defender here. That's Bobby Okariki. Another similar situation here, I think, in some ways to Taekwon Lewis, where he's going to get more playing time because of a player leaving, right? So Anthony Walker obviously going to Cleveland in free agency. I really feel like Okariki is going to have an opportunity. But obviously, I feel like Okariki, up to this point, compared to Taekwon Lewis, has probably put a little bit more out on the field on tape. But I feel like now, with the extended role he's going to get and more of the leadership role, Okariki's really been slept on, and he's a really good player. So I think he's going to be secretly a really good linebacker for this Colts team. We all know about Darius Leonard. Everybody talks about him, whether that's positive or negative. He's always being talked about as top 5 linebacker, at least in the league. And so Bobby Okariki, I think, is going to be a nice middle linebacker for the Colts. And Jim Irsay thinks he's a Pro Bowler. So, I mean, I think he definitely has the ability to be that type of player. Marcus, who is your number 2 guy here?
Another guy on that defensive line. Grover Stewart, man. I love Grover Stewart, dude. His production last year when he got paid and everything, he deserves every dollar. I don't think he gets talked about a lot for his production for what he does. Even like when we have DeForest Buckner and everything, when Grover Stewart comes in, he lets his presence be felt. And that's one thing we're going to be needing on the defensive line next year. And I think whenever he steps in and fills in for whatever role, I think he's going to be very pivotal going forward into next season with this tough schedule. So I think he's definitely being slept on next year. I think Grover Stewart's going to have another big impact year for us.
Agreed. Oh, definitely. Grover Stewart is fantastic, man. He definitely deserved that contract extension. I agree with you there. Derek, who do you have here?
I'm going to go with Paris Campbell. Now, I know that's a little bit of a weird one because, I think a lot of Colts Nation is quite back and forth when it comes to his name. You either have half the people saying, oh, we think he's going to be a breakout player. You have the other half saying, we don't trust him at all because, he's an injury-prone player, even though we know that's far from the truth. I think that, it's a sleeper because, half of Colts Nation just doesn't quite understand because they can't get the stigma out of their head that this guy actually does have the talent to be a great player on this roster. And I think that Paris Campbell is going to turn a lot of heads if he can stay even semi-healthy.
I love Paris Campbell, man. I really hope that he can just have a healthy season for the first time ever in the NFL. It's about time. This guy's had so many unfortunate injuries. I think it's about his time. But I think I want to stick with receiver, go with Zach Pascal. And the reason why I want to go with Zach Pascal is because we talk about those 3 wide receivers. We talk about T.Y., we talk about Pittman, we talk about Paris Campbell. We don't talk about Zach Pascal enough. And I'll admit it, we don't do it enough on this podcast. Zach Pascal deserves more love than he gets from just Colts people in general. So, the things that he does, it may not necessarily show up on the stats. If you would just look at, catches and yards and touchdowns and all that stuff, nothing would really pop out to you, but just what he does that the stats don't catch, right? His run blocking ability, just his blocking ability in general. He's just fantastic. And he always seems like he comes up with a big play when you need it down the stretch. And I just love what Zach Pascal brings to this team. So fortunate that we were able to get him last offseason and just talk a little bit about him. And he's just quietly a guy that's always on the field, always working, always setting that precedent for what the Colts are looking for in their wide receiver. So Zach Pascal, I think, is very slept on, but he can really step up and need be. He was a Colts leading receiver. People seem to forget he was the Colts leading receiver in 2019. This is a guy that can play when need be. All right, let's move on now to the number 3 guy, Marcus. Who you got?
I was going to use Zachary Paschall.
Perfect.
I feel like Derek was going to.
I'm literally doing the exact same thing.
It was kind of funny because once Cody made it, I was like, well, that was my guy right there. You pretty much just hit a nail on everything. I feel like he gets lost in the offense so many times. And I feel like even last year when we didn't have like a go-to guy, even when Pittman was out, Zachary Pascoe was the most reliable last year, in my opinion. And I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for what he does. And he's very productive in any role he can play on the offense. So I definitely think he's going to be a sleeper next year, just like any other year. Zachary Pascoe is going to contribute very well in next season.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit the nail on the head. Hate to keep saying it multiple times over, but you're right. Every time we've spent the whole offseason, oh, can we get T.Y. Hilton back? Oh, Michael Pittman, he's about to be the breakout guy, right? Paris Campbell, how's he look coming back from injury? All this time we've been forgetting about the most consistent wide receiver on our roster over the last few years, and that's Zach Pascal. We've been forgetting about it all this time. And, the multiple times where he's had some great games, he's played a lot of great games against some divisional rivals, including the Texans. He's starting to turn into the new T.Y. Hilton when it comes to the Texans. He seems to have his best games against them, which is great to know. And this, again, just like last year, again, was a consistent, reliable option. And I fully expect him to do it again. And people will completely forget his name. Even the national media will forget it. And then all of it takes is one game. And then people are like, oh, wait, he's on the roster again. Everyone does it all the time. And I love it.
Yeah. Speaking of guys who are consistent, I have to talk about Jack Doyle for a minute because nobody talks about him. I mean, he has been a model of consistency ever since he came to Indianapolis. Undrafted free agent, was a number 3 tight end, worked his way all the way up to number 1, and he's been a Pro Bowler. He's been consistently solid, good, reliable guy. In the midst of all this quarterback chaos, all the different quarterbacks, he's been a consistent guy. And I think now finally getting a quarterback, Andrew Luck-esque, those kind of tendencies, I think it could go really well for a guy like Jack Doyle, right? We talk all the time about Mo Alley-Cox, Kylan Grants, and these guys, what they're going to bring to the offense, and rightfully so, right? They have the things that you're really excited about. But Jack Doyle has consistently been a solid tight end in this Colts offense. He's really been the cog that makes this thing go in terms of helping his quarterback out of trouble. So I just have to show some love to my guy, Jack Doyle, because he doesn't get talked about enough either. And I'm a big Jack Doyle guy myself. So I just had to give him a shout out. But Marcus, who's your next guy?
My next guy is going to be Carrie Willis. Carrie Willis is going to be a sleeper pick for me. Of course, he's a nice duo and a great pair with Julian Blackmon, and I think they can be a nice, good duo for the future of the Indianapolis Colts. He's a really good tackler out there. Of course, if he sees the ball, he's going to go get it. And I think even if he can go get a sack, he can go through with the quickness of acceleration. And I don't think his talent gets talked about enough. Of course, he has places to improve, but I think he's one of those guys that can be a really good sleeper next season. Going into it, a lot of people have been praising Carrie Willis at the end of the year. Even in this offseason, they're thinking he's going to have a really good year next year. And I think he's definitely going to be one of those sleeper guys for me going into next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look at his improvement from his rookie season to his sophomore season. I mean, it's crazy how much better he got. We thought he was really good as a rookie, but even in year 2, I mean, his missed tackle numbers were so much better in year 2. You got to think if he's continuing to improve, how much better can he be here in year 3? Derek, who's your next guy?
I'm going to go with Marlon Mack on this one. I think even a lot of Colts fans are forgetting just how good Marlon Mack was in this system of 2 years ago. I mean, we obviously know Jonathan Taylor is going to be the lead back going forward. He's too talented not to be. And we know that Hines, especially last year, I know Cody and I talked about it multiple times, how Hines seemed to run the ball a lot better in between the tackles last year, which seems to make me think he's going to have a few more rushing attempts this next year. But again, with Marlon Mack coming back, I really think that he's going to outperform the expectations that are being put on him. Even if he might get the least amount of carries, I think he actually is going to still average, near that 5 yards per carry that we think that he can, because, the Colts offensive line's not taking a step back from losing, Costanzo. When Eric Fisher comes back, we seem to think that they're going to stay right where they were at the beginning. And I think Marlon Mack is going to come back with a vengeance, because I think he knows whether his time in Indianapolis here is going to be short-lived from this point on. I think he's desperate to prove that he's still got it. I think a lot of people are seeming to forget that. And I think he's going to really show people the running back that he still is. And whether that's staying with the Colts after this season or going to another team because another team finds that value in him, I think he's going to show it this year.
Oh, yeah. I love the Mac love there, man. All right, Marcus. I think I already asked you your next guy, so I'll go for my guy here. So I was kind of torn with this, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Braden Smith. I mean, I think I have to at this point. I mean, how underrated this guy is, man. I mean, no sacks allowed and still didn't even get Pro Bowl or All-Pro consideration. That's absolutely insane to me. I can't believe, and he's so underrated, I almost didn't include him on my list. I mean, he's
I know.
Darn good.
The Colts fan base understands the value of this guy, but yeah, the national media and other fan bases have no clue who this guy is. But yet somehow he was one of the only tackles last year that did not allow a sack all of last year, which is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Marcus, last guy here. Who is your fifth guy?
Might receive some heat about this, but I really don't care. My last sleeper guy is going to be Rock Ya-Sin.
Okay.
Now, if Rock Ya-Sin can get any type of his production from the rookie year, and I think he can, I think he can be a sleeper pick. One thing why, because I know quarterbacks next season is going to test him all year. And I'm pretty sure that's what Rocky Sin's going to want. He's been working his butt off this whole offseason. He's been getting praise from Kenny Moore, and he knows what's at risk if he doesn't perform next season. And I think he's going to put himself up to the test, game by game, play by play, and perform like he's supposed to. One of the most pivotal games from last season that I think he did and he was really underestimated about was the Green Bay Packers game. Caught that interception against Aaron Rodgers. Of course, he got smoked at the beginning of the game, but nobody talks about his second half performance going into that game. I think Rocky Sin has what it takes to improve. He definitely has a fan of me. He has my support. All you guys have to do is just wait and see. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I think he's going to be a sleeper pick, and that's why he's my last pick for this video discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, good grief. If you would ask, if you even ask our own fans, who's a player that, you're kind of giving up on, a lot of people would include Rocky Sin in this.
Ask Van Albright. He says, I'm done with you, Sin. Of course. Yeah.
Which is crazy because he's only been in the league 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just absolutely crazy that some people are willing to give up on a guy that hasn't even played out he's played out half of his rookie contract. You know what I mean? Like, he still is very young. He's still learning the position. It takes some of these guys years and years. It's like corner and pass rush especially. It takes these guys sometimes to get, to where they need to be. And so I just think it's a little bit premature still to give up on Rocky Sin because it's not been all bad. Like, he's had some really nice moments that you like to see there. But yeah, I think he's the most slept on player of any guy here. I think I can agree on that. So the expectation, the bar is pretty low from the fans' perspective. So he has a potential to really ascend, honestly, especially if, like you mentioned, can tap into the second half of that rookie season. I mean, that would be such a huge surprise. And and we would love it. And you'd be the first guy to say it, man. We'll just say that. We'll come back in the year, and if he's firmly the number 1 or number 2 corner, we'll say, hey, Marcus called it all the way back.
He's not going to be the number 2. He'll be the solid number 3, okay? We got to remember.
I don't know.
You got Kenny Moore and you got Xavier Rhodes.
Okay, all right. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but you corrected me last time.
We'll say Kenny's a slot.
I got to throw it back at you a little bit, all right?
Weak argument, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Derek, I guess. Who do you got, Derek?
All right. It's another corner for me, and it's the one who opted out from last season, and that's going to be Marvell Tell for me. Like I said, that third corner spot, it's up for anybody at this point. Rocky Sin's going to have to battle for it. Marvell Tell's coming back, and he's ready to play now. And just like Yasin was in his rookie year, Marvell Tell at the end of the season was really showing out, was doing a really great job using that length of his and that instincts that he has. I mean, he's got some great intangibles and great recognition. I really want to see him be utilized more in the pass game. I really am looking forward to seeing his progression. Obviously, missing last season was kind of hurtful for him, I think. When you're a young player, it's not great for you to miss seasons, but I totally get why he did. I just fully expect there's so much competition for that third corner spot, fully expect him to get a couple snaps here and there. And I think he's going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I'm going to throw Isaiah Rodgers in there as well. I think both those guys, some people, one of those guys I feel like is going to really show out. Maybe both of them do, but I just wanted to throw his name in there. And I'm going to go to my last guy here. Talking about guys that are slept on. How about Carson Wentz, man? How slept on he is. Maybe not even by the Colts fan base anymore, but just by so many people.
We have an Eagles fan that comes into our chat every single time.
Yes.
Wentz
Carson Wentz suck.
Love that he lives rent-free in your head, bro, to the point where you come on our videos every time and say Wentz sucks.
I mean, that just goes to show
because it's funny. We don't block you because it's funny. We love seeing it every time. Love it.
The hate is just unreal. Man. Yeah. It's unreal, man. It's unreal, the hate that he receives. So I think for that reason, so many people are like, he's going to be a bum. He's going to be 2020 Carson Wentz, and I don't think that's going to be the case. I really think he's being slept on by way, way too many people, and being reunited with Frank Reich, getting back to the basics, I think are going to help him out tremendously in 2021.
I'll make the case that when it comes to the broadcasting networks, he's not getting slept on because he's helped us get about 3 more national primetime games. So,
shout out to Darren Orlovsky.
I mean, hey, at least from the national broadcast perspective, that's not. But,
which is great.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but all right, that'll do it for our list, guys, of some Colts who we really feel like are being slept on by a lot of people. Let us know of our list. Let us know if there's any other guys that you guys would include. Thank you, Marcus, for coming on. Thanks, Derek, as always. Always a good time. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.